Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Grand Cruise Astrology. My name is Clayton Cruz, and here to talk to you about what's coming up astrologically over the next couple of months. A lot is packed into a short period of time. Some of it is very large in scope, more collective oriented, and a lot of it is very personal. It's more personal in nature. So let's get to it here. I'll cover as much as I can in this video. Hopefully, I can cover everything. And if I can't, then I'll make another video probably right closer to the end of the year. So let's get started. We just had an eclipse. As I speak to you now, today is December 6th. So we had an eclipse here a couple of days ago um, on December 3rd here in the United States. And so that eclipse in Sagittarius at about 12 degrees. South Node eclipse. I see that eclipse is kind of wrapping up a cycle of eclipses we've had in Sagittarius and Gemini. The nodes have been transiting both Sagittarius and Gemini. We've had the North Node in Gemini and the South Node in Sagittarius. The North Node in Gemini bringing a lot of attention to detail, really looking at all sides of any given point of view. Gemini is very curious. It's very fact oriented, but the facts change with every perspective, okay? Because Gemini explores all sides of everything. It's not the most decisive expression of an energy. And so with the North Node being in the sign of Gemini, it's been sort of a supercharged influx of that energy for the last year and a half. And so in the positive side, it can be it can really get us looking at things closely and carefully and really having us parcel up an issue to really understand it from all sides and perspectives and angles. It's very nuanced. It really explores nuance. Sagittarius, on the other hand, where the South Node has been, is the opposite of that in a lot of ways. It's across from that. Sagittarius is more about big picture, has a lot to do with what's true, not necessarily truth, but what is true. It can be true, what's true for an individual, how and it does have to do with seeking that truth, coming to a greater understanding, seeing the forest through the trees, right? Sagittarius really wants to understand the greater story behind what's happening, the greater, bigger, larger vision. It's a Jupiter ruled sign, right? Whereas Gemini is a Mercury ruled sign. So Gemini is all about the trees, not so much the forest. Gemini wants to understand every forest in the tree and explore the nuances of every tree. And that's cool. That's fine. That's what Gemini does. But that's where the North Node has been. So we've had a lot of that. We've had a lot of parceling up and getting down to itty gritty details of things. And there's been a lot of variety of experience and opinion. Okay, now in the opposite of that, we haven't had a lot of perspective from a Sagittarian point of view. We haven't had a lot of big picture culmination. What's the meaning of it? What's the crux of it? What's the story behind it? It's been a little foggy, perhaps been a little bit of a power outage. The North Node has been in Gemini, influx of that energy, outflow the South Node in Sagittarius. So Sagittarian things have been kind of at a discount, right? It hasn't been we haven't had it hasn't been supercharged. It hasn't gotten us very far, the Sagittarian way of doing things. It's been more Geminian. So Sagittarius rules things like travel, rules things like freedom, expansion, and growth. So the last year and a half, that's been that hasn't been the easiest thing to pursue. It's been a little more difficult. It's taken a little bit more effort than what it has given in the past. So that's in play. That's actually moving out once we get in next year. We're going to have the nodes move so that the South Node is going to go into the sign of Scorpio, and the North Node will go into the sign of Taurus. And so that'll be a whole new cycle with eclipses to go with it. I'll do more videos about that as we get there. But just understand, this eclipse that we just had is sort of it's wrapping up that nodal cycle that has been Sagittarius and Gemini. I do think as the nodes change by degree once we get into January of next year, I do think there will be a little bit less emphasis on this Geminian uh, sort of detail-oriented, analytical sort of parceling up every little moment, instance, and breaking it down into its little bitty parts and exploring all sides of everything. And there'll be more of a return to the Sagittarian way of looking at the greater meaning behind what is being said instead of breaking it down in analytics and parceling it up. I think a big picture perspective will come back into play, and hopefully travel will come back into play too. Some of these Sagittarian things have been harder to come by lately. It's been we've had to put out more effort to achieve those Sagittarian expressions. So that looks like it'll be coming back online. Sagittarius will. In Gemini, the emphasis in Gemini will be a little less. It'll be a little bit more balanced. Nothing to write home about, but I think that we'll probably notice a little bit more balance there. And we will, at that same time, we'll be having more emphasis on Taurus, less emphasis on Scorpio. And as we get closer to that, I'll do another video about that. So that's a larger background energy. When we're talking about nodes, we're talking about larger than life energies that are, you could say karmic in nature. You could say that they have a lot to do with cycles that are larger than the day-to-day life, and have to do with karma that you can't really get out of, that we deal with as a collective. Okay. I'll kind of leave it at that. I could do a whole video about the nodes, but I'll kind of leave it at that just to make the point that this is a very big energy. It's large in scope. Now we'll kind of get more into the more personal part of it. Now, we did have that eclipse. Again, I said it's kind of a wrapping up of that Sagittarius, South Node Sagittarian eclipse. So, we had an eclipse before that was a lunar eclipse that was in the sign of Taurus. So that eclipse that we had in late November, that eclipse was kind of bringing in that, it was sort of a harbinger of that energy to come. That eclipse was on right around the 19th of November, is a full moon eclipse. And so that was a harbinger of the new nodal cycle that will be here for another year and a half once we get into January. So, and this eclipse that we had here on December 3rd is sort of kind of wrapping up not an old energy, but with the energy we've dealt with for the last year and a half. So, there can, with these south node eclipses, the eclipse in November was a north node eclipse. So north node eclipses bring energy in. They're like a power charge, a surge to that sign and degree, which was 27 degrees Taurus. So we could have felt, like back in November, we could have felt an influx of feeling hearty, it's right around Thanksgiving in the United States, just an influx of feeling Taurus things, fixed earth, like feeling in the midst of creature comforts, feeling abundance of material comfort in some kind of capacity. We could have been feeling that. We could have been cashing in on that, in our lives in some way. Maybe we just, kind of enjoying ourselves a little more. Really getting into that earth energy. Taurus energy really loves creature comforts. It loves caring and being cared for in a very material sense. It's a Venusian ruled sign, right? It likes pleasure. So happy to say that for the next year and a half, we will have the North Node in a Venusian ruled sign, which is Taurus. To the downside, Taurus can be very, kind of stubborn and it can dig its heels in and wants what it wants when it wants it and does it, how it wants to be done, and won't move, It can be a little bit fixed, right? So I do see the North Node energy getting a little bit more personal for each of us over the next year and a half once we get into January. So that eclipse there in late November was kind of a harbinger of that energy, right? Just kind of a, it was a lunar eclipse. It wasn't a major thing, but it was kind of bringing in that energy. And we're releasing with that South Node eclipse here in Sagittarius, we're releasing Sagittarian energy, power outage, outflow of that Sagittarian energy. This will be the end of that cycle. It will last through the end of the year. It will be kind of a finale of Sagittarian energy going out. So what does that look like? Well, I mean, I've kind of talked about it a little bit. We've Sagittarius. What does it love? Sagittarius loves freedom. It loves truth. It loves big picture. It's Jupiter. It's Jupiter. It loves jovialness. It loves to be uninhibited, to do what it wants when it wants to, and to not, to not feel hemmed in, to not feel locked down, right? So, things are tightening up a little bit worldwide right now, and that's not very Sagittarian. Sagittarius doesn't really, do well in that kind of environment. So, this will be kind of the, astrologically speaking, by the nodes, this would suggest this could be kind of a wrapping up of some of that. Okay. There will be other energies to deal with for sure, but that energy will be wrapping up. Now, that's one of the big energies. The other main energy is the Saturn Uranus square. Okay. That will go exact again. We've been dealing with the Saturn Uranus square. I did another video about it last year. It's a big energy. It's here with us for a while. It'll be around for 2022 as well, off and on. But as Saturn goes back and forth and Uranus does the same, they cross each other's path directly a few times. And it is going to cross directly again right here at the end of the year. I do believe that's right around Christmas Day, December 25th. We are going to have Saturn and Uranus right there together in a square aspect with one another. So, again, I talked about the nodal shift that's happening. A very, very big kind of large, an energy that's very large in scope with those nodes shifting. Well, this is another one that's very big. These are outer planets. Outer planets tend to affect collective energies more than they do personally, although collective energies have a personal effect on all of us. We're all affected personally by larger energies, right? But these are energies that kind of affect larger groups of people for longer periods of time, right? So when we have Saturn and Uranus going square, well, we have Saturn, as I've spoken about in the past. We have Saturn in Aquarius, which has to do with group energy. And when you have Saturn there, Saturn wants to tighten it up a little bit, Saturn is about limits, about boundaries, about making real and material the container, right, for the group, right? Because that's what Aquarius energy is. Aquarius energy is group energy. When Saturn goes, Aquarius energy is all about accounting for group. It's very selfless in a way. Aquarian energy is. But when Saturn goes in there, Saturn says, okay, how can we create a foundation so that all of this Aquarian ideals, Aquarius is very big on ideals and what is good for all. It's very utilitarian. Saturn comes in there and says, okay, well, how can we make that real? How can we create structures, systems, interactions, groups, whatever it be, that can account for this larger ideal that we have? How can we how can we fix it into something that's solid, lasting, and containing, right? So that these ideals can have form, right? Have some real, long-lasting life beyond just a thought. So when Saturn cycles are 29 years or so. So I mean, what we're setting up now with Saturn, and will be for the next year, Saturn is building foundations that were going to last another 29 years. That's astrologically what that would suggest. So we are, as a group, as a collective village, you could say, Aquarian words. Saturn is coming in and creating the foundations for how to make that work. How, it's very much getting real about the realities that we live in as a world. And Saturn is saying, okay, let's get real about how we're going to live together in this world as a collective village. That's kind of what Saturn is doing. And for better and worse, Saturn will create restrictions and limitations. Jupiter, while it's been in Aquarius too, has given us a lot of hope. It's given us a lot of feelings of optimism about what's possible. Okay, but Jupiter is going to leave Aquarius at the end of the year. And so it'll just be Saturn Aquarius. Saturn has been square to Uranus in Taurus. Uranus in Taurus is Taurus is not Uranus' favorite expression, right? Taurus is very fixed energy, fixed Earth, right? Uranus is a very dynamic, electric, fast-moving, lightning strike energy, right? So you put that energy in the sign of Taurus and you get earthquakes, right? Perhaps not literal, but perhaps. But you definitely get rumblings on a personal level. That can happen depending on where Taurus is in your chart, what planets it's affecting. It can shake things up a bit, right? So when you have Uranus there in the sign of Taurus, and it's square to Saturn, it's really having us, for some of us in different ways and more than others, right? You're having a very personal energy, which is Taurus, and Uranus there, which is all about individuality, novelty, freedom, originality, right? In the sign of Taurus, which is very personal energy, it has to do with personal values, right? Personal possessions and how do I take care of mine and myself and my family? It's a very personal energy, very practical energy, right? And you put Uranus in there, it says, okay, I have to account for self and my own needs and needs of people close to me, and how do we maintain our status and our status may be the wrong word, but more of our how do you maintain the lifestyle, right? How do I maintain my lifestyle? How do I account for this larger group energy and this collective infrastructure that's being built, while at the same time account for what I know and love and what's important to me, what's dear to me, right? Uranus is coming through there and says, don't you dare compromise that, right? Or it's at the very least saying, get creative about how you can have both, right? How you can account for the larger group structure and container, while at the same time not sacrificing that which is dear to you, what's important to you, what you value, right? Your own personal values of what life is worth to you and what is important, right? Because though we are a village, we all have personal needs and desires as well. And I think with this aspect, what it's showing us is that it's important for us to not sacrifice either one of those, because the squares ask us to get creative about solutions and to not sacrifice the energies, not to meet in the middle necessarily. That's more of an opposition. Squares ask us to get creative about creating a material foundation, a material outcome that can account for both of the energies. So suffice it to say, there are a lot of rumblings along the way. Ultimately, we will get to that place where we have created that as a collective. We have created that container for ourselves individually to have and be and do what it is that we need to have, be and do that really aligns with our values, while at the same time functioning within a container that accounts for the needs of the larger group. okay? Ultimately, we will get there, but we're in a process of creating that right now. And it can get choppy, it can get bumpy. We see a lot of friction around that, a lot of division around people around that, and arguments, and there's a lot of stuff happening around this issue, right? In any given moment, we can find ourselves in one camp or another, given the situation, given the time, given the place, right? So we're all participants in this square, and so it will continue to happen. The shift, the change that is happening with this, that will be new at the end of the year, is Jupiter is going to be leaving. Jupiter is going to be leaving Aquarius, right? So whenever Jupiter is in a sign, Jupiter brings emphasis. It brings energy to that sign. It brings optimism, it brings hope, it brings expansion. It's like a magnifying glass. So for 2022, it's going to be that Aquarian energy will be a little bit, there'll be some de-emphasis to that, because Jupiter is not going to be there supplying the expansion, the growth, the optimism, the vision. Jupiter is going to be leaving. And so it's just going to be Saturn doing its thing. Now, Saturn Aquarius is still very powerful. Saturn is the ancient ruler of Aquarius. So it's in its element. It'll be doing fine there on its own. But it will be on its own. It will be a little bit of a de-emphasis compared to 2021. Whereas, on the other hand, there will be an added emphasis to Uranus in the sign of Taurus, because the North Node is going to be joining Uranus in the sign of Taurus. It won't hit, the North Node will not hit Uranus until 2023, I believe, and when it does, I'll do another video about that. But just the node being in the same sign as Uranus is going to create an emphasis, more of a spotlight on that Uranian energy. I think people are going to be asking more questions about what is important to them and what they personally value. I think that's a conversation that's going to be had more and more over the next year and a half. The conversation of collective will still be in play, because Saturn is still there and that square is still very much alive. But I think the emphasis will shift just a little bit with that going into 2022. It may get a little more personal, more individual. So look for that. That's these, again, with the nodes and the Saturn-Uranus square, this is the larger collective energy. Now, more personal energy, we're going to start talking about Venus here. Now, this is a more immediate. We have Venus going retrograde right around that third week of December. From my ephemeris, it says right around the 19th of December, we have Venus going retrograde, and it is going to be going retrograde within a degree of Pluto. So, and it's just going to be kind of hanging out and sit, because whenever a planet goes retrograde or direct, it slows down. I mean, Venus, the Sun, Mercury, especially the Sun and Moon, they don't go retrograde, but Venus and Mercury and Mars, and they kind of move pretty quick. But when they go retrograde, they slow down, and they become, their energy becomes magnified, right? Because, when they're just moving at normal speed, you'll feel it for a day or whatever. And like, especially a planet like Venus, right? Venus, going over your sun or something like that, going over your rising sign, you'll feel Venus for a day or two. And it's kind of like, you just feel, it feels kind of sweet. Maybe, you have a good time socially, or you just kind of feel like you got a little extra style, depending on where it is, in your chart, it's kind of a very mild energy. It's not a game changer. But when it goes retrograde, that's a different story, especially when it goes retrograde right on Pluto in the sign of Capricorn at 26 degrees. So this is having us, Venus is about relationships one-to-one. It can be about possessions. It can be about material possessions. It can be about relationships. It can be about Venusian energy, the good things in life, right? So when it's going retrograde in the sign of Capricorn at 26 degrees conjunct Pluto, it's asking us, especially from now till the end of the year, to likely going to be doing some probing on an inner level into the people, places, and things that we surround ourselves with. What of that is ready to transform? Um, Pluto is a transformative energy. Pluto is about death and rebirth, caterpillar to butterfly. Pluto is a very harsh, intense. I say intense, I don't necessarily mean in a negative way. I just mean that it's thorough. I mean that this isn't, this turns Venusian things. This is a time when Venus, which is a very casual planet, can get very serious. Um, I mean, this can manifest in any number of ways, right? This can be our relationships in life. This can be really getting clear on, do I want to go all the way with this person in a relationship, whether it be marriage or friendship? Are we really something that's lasting and real? Is this real, or do I just let it go? I mean, Pluto can be a very all or nothing energy. It can get very extreme. It can get very uh, yeah, it can get very extreme. It can be very, very all or nothing. It can get yeah, there's a lot of there can be a lot of discerning clarity that comes along with that. Now, while we have Venus there through the end of the year, there can be a lot of churning, a lot of feelings that come up, a lot of really intense inner mining that we do on an emotional level, to really dig out and find where are the diamonds in us, and what is just coal, and what do we need to get rid of, and what do we keep, right? There could be some churning, but by the end of it, this would suggest that we may be very clear and have some very concise and um, decisions that are lasting, that are a rebirth for us in our dealings and in our relationships with people on a one-to-one level. This could also be with because it's in the sign of Capricorn, this can be on a career level. It could be within companies. It could be within old systems and structures of work, and whether that be corporate structures or within hierarchy of um, of business, perhaps, or organization, right? Uh, Capricorn is about the old guard. It's about the tried and true, how we've always kind of done things. It can be a very kind of conservative energy, because it definitely, Capricorn sticks to the tried and true, right? Pluto has been in Capricorn since what, I think 2008 or 9, right? And so it's been transforming these old structures very thoroughly for a while now. And we've seen that in our world. We've turned things over and looked at them pretty closely. And that process is still going on. It'll still go on for another few years. It's a very long, thorough process. With Venus going through their more personal energy coming to Pluto, that says, okay, well, let's look at our personal relationship to some of this, right? To some of these more, whether they be actual structures in our collective and in our environment that we live, institutions, right? Our relationship to those institutions, or whether it be just our relationship within patterns, right? That, maybe we have old patterns of behavior that we've inherited, that we've taken on. We've done things because that's how everybody else did it, that's how I was raised, and that kind of thing. Maybe we are in a process of turning that over as well. This can be a very it can be a very, I don't want to say sudden, because it's not Uranian as much as it is Pluto. This can be a few weeks here of a very deep dive, right? That maybe we didn't count on, maybe we didn't see coming. All right, but a lot can come out of it, and we can be reborn from it. Okay, that is the gift of a Pluto aspect. It can be very deep. It can be at times really grueling, depending on how deep we want to go and how much we want to get out of it, right? But I would encourage each of you to really explore the inner depths of yourself during this time period, because the opportunity is there. Exploring the inner depths of how you relate to people on a one-to-one level, and how you relate to the larger structures that surround you and the larger patterns of behavior in your life. That's what this eclipse is asking us to do. And I will say that there looks to be a happy ending to this, and I'm going to get to it. But first, I'm going to talk about Mars, because Mars is going to be with us here. It's going to be it's going into the sign of Sagittarius right around the middle of the month. It's in Scorpio right now, as I make this video on December 6th. Mars is in Scorpio. Mars loves Scorpio. It is the ancient ruler of Scorpio. Mars loves using that scorpionic energy to probe deep into the depths. So Mars is sort of bringing a little bit of that gusto and energy into doing some of that scorpionic work of digging deep and mining for the gems of truth within us or without us, in the outside world in whatever capacity. Really having those perhaps confrontational conversations to really get to the heart of the discussion of what needs to be said and done and felt and discerned and dealt with, right? Mars can be very thorough with that. Mars can bring the energy to do that probing that Scorpio likes to do. Now, Mars in the middle of the month, going into the sign of Sagittarius, middle of December, that's going to bring a little more jovial gusto into our lives, perhaps, because Mars loves Sagittarius too. Sagittarius is a fire sign, and Mars will bring into Sagittarius that desire for expansion and growth. Now, when it first goes in, it will hit the south node right around the middle of the month. And so, I would just suggest that what this will suggest, and this is going to get to what I'm going to talk about here in a minute with it going over the eclipse point. For the last half of December, with Mars going into Sagittarius, there may be a desire to expand far and wide. There may be a fire lit in us to go out and, think about Sagittarian. I mean, there may be a desire with us to really get out there and take on the world and explore new terrain and territories and climb mountains and, go, I don't know, intense downhill snowboarding and skiing or whatever. I don't know, ice skating on one foot and doing backflips. I don't know. Just take your pick of semi-dangerous and yet quite exciting, fun things that Mars and Sagittarius would like to do, right? Whatever that is for you, that fire could be lit when Mars goes into Sagittarius. However, the south node is there, and when the Mars goes over the south node, it could really. It's just a warning of it. There's some caution to be had there. It is an aspect of caution. I would caution there's a tendency to want to have fun and to take chances, but don't be reckless. That's the only caution, astrological advice I would give with that. Try to get that energy out. That energy's there. You don't want to just bottle it up and do nothing. You want to move that energy. You do. But just a little more caution, a little more discernment in the things that you choose to do. Just be a little cautious to not let that Mars energy run away with you, because it can create problems for you, for yourself or for others. This can be a little erratic, this energy, when Mars goes over the south node in the sign of Sagittarius. That'll be in play right around the middle of the month, and then when we get to the end of the month, it's going to hit that eclipse point. So that's another dose of this power outage that is Mars. I mean, this is the kind of energy that can blow out a knee, or something like that. Just getting a little bit too excited, a little bit too rambunctious, a little bit too too ahead of ourselves, right? Um, so this is just, I don't know, this is just a little caution. I'm not trying to scare anybody with this, but what I'm seeing astrologically would just suggest take it easy, have a good time, get the energy out, but be a little careful. Mars energy, there's some de-emphasis on that Mars energy there when it goes into Sagittarius. This isn't going to work how it normally would necessarily, right? Even though desire may be there. So that's the only caution I'll give with that. Now, once we get into January, it will get away from Mars will get away from that eclipse point, and the further it gets from that, once we get into January, I think we can be a little bit more out on that front foot a little bit and more action oriented and get better results, especially when the node goes into especially when the node goes into the south node goes into Scorpio, which won't be until February, and by then Mars will be on the Capricorn. So this Mars transit through Sagittarius, have a good time, be jovial, be jolly, be action oriented, but just with just an added 1% of reserve and some caution. That's what I would suggest. Now, okay, so we have getting back to now, we're getting into January now. We're getting back to Venus, and we're getting back to its transit. It's retrograde. It's going to be going retrograde through Capricorn again. That process is going to start off a little intense with it being right on Pluto, right there at the middle of December. But as it transits backwards, it'll go through Capricorn, and there will be some reassessing and really redefining of how we're going to relate to these structures and relationships like I talked about. But as it goes direct, which it will toward the end of January, it's going to be right at 11 degrees of Capricorn. And it will be trine to Uranus in Taurus. So how do I see this? Taking a step back, looking at the big picture, looking at the forests and the trees. I kind of see this as a happy ending with that Venus going direct. When we have Venus going retrograde, it's really making us aware of our relationship to the old. Whatever the old is, whether it's the old one-to-one relationship we've been in, whether it's just the old patterns of that relationship or the relationship itself, whether it's a relationship to our job, whether it's a relationship to an organization or a structure or a larger collective structure, whatever it is, we're taking an intense look. We're being made aware on a very deep level of who we are in relation to that, as I talked about. Well, when that goes direct in late January, it's going to be going direct trine to Uranus. So what does that mean? It means we're going to have easy flow coming from the planet of Uranus. Uranus is the planet of individuality. Uranus is the planet of originality, of change, of creativity, personal creativity, right? And with it being in the sign of Taurus, it's giving us a really easy energy and easy understanding of what it is our personal values are, what it is that's important to us, what it is that makes us tick, where we find ourselves within the larger dynamic. It really is creating for us an opportunity to take a step back and get clear. Okay, I know I am defined in a large part by society and the structures and the roles that I play in life. But if I pull back from that a little bit and really go within, I can also find a part of me that is more timeless and more real and beyond the more temporal nature of some of these ideas and structures and larger constructs that I've been within, right? That's the process that's happening here. And when we get to late January, it's almost like we find that jewel. We get it back. We connect with that. That's that aha moment. Oh my gosh, here I am. Here I am in relation to all that. What happened to me? Like I got lost. I got lost in all of that other construct, and maybe I was giving too much of myself up, or maybe I wasn't I was too honed into being, playing this role for that purpose or this or that. And we get back to ourselves. That is the opportunity that's being given to us here, to really reconnect with the part of us that is unique, that is individual, and to bring that back into the world. Because when it goes direct, it's still going to be in the sign of Capricorn, right? It's still going to be at 11 degrees Capricorn. So it's still going to be transiting direct through Capricorn, but it's giving us the opportunity to, when it does go direct, to have our own personal redefinition. Being in the sign of Capricorn, it's like we're going to be rebranding ourselves. I almost see it that way, right? And bringing ourselves out into the world in a very new way, with a new energy, a new vitality, a new sense of individuality, right, within the larger construct. Now, the good thing about that is, as well, is as we get further into February, Mars is going to be joining up with Venus, and they are going to be two peas in a pod for a couple of months there, moving at the same speed for all of February for the most part, and pretty much all of most of March as well, right? I mean, even into April a little bit. So I mean, for the next couple of months, when Venus does go retrograde, there's going to be Mars and it's going to be Mars and Venus right there together, moving together with each other, hand in hand. The divine masculine, divine feminine. All right, these two planets, they're like opposite sides of the coin. They're both very personal in nature, right? They're opposite sides of the coin, and when they you could say that they're very different, but they also have this tension and attraction to one another, right? That is very visceral and real, very charged, right? And so when they're together, it is a chance for fireworks in a very big way on a lot of different levels. There's a chance for personal one-to-one dynamics to hit a whole new level of creativity, and there's just going to be a real drive and energy to connect. I just see with the start of 2022, I see people coming together. I see people coming together with this, or at least having the desire to. I don't think this energy can be stopped. This is really powerful. This is really exciting energy. So as that takes place, as Venus comes back online, once you get into late January into February, and Mars joins up with it, that's really great on a personal level. Then we're going to have Mercury going retrograde. Mercury will be going retrograde right around the middle of January. And it will be going retrograde in Aquarius. It's funny. It's going to hit Saturn. It's going to come within a couple of degrees of Saturn. Now, Mercury and Saturn get along fine. Mercury is going to be in an air sign of Aquarius, and so it's going to get to that. It's going to get to Saturn. Saturn's going to it's going to just halt and turn backward, right? So it looks like again another significator for maybe a de-emphasis on that Aquarian energy to start the year. There could be, that Mercury retrograde could be a harbinger of a little bit of that Aquarian de-emphasis that we're seeing in 2022. It looks like 2022 is starting off a lot more personal for a lot of people. Now, so we'll be going retrograde in Aquarius, and we'll track back. And when it goes direct a few weeks later, it's going to go direct where? Right on that, right on Pluto there, in within a few degrees of Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. So here again, Venus is going to go direct, and by February, yes, we're going to be moving forward emotionally. Mars and Venus are going to be moving, the masculine and feminine, going to be moving together in harmony. They're going to be moving forward on an emotional level. There should be a lot of balance. That's a very good thing. On a mental, psychological level, we could be going through a very almost impersonal an impersonal inventory of some some of this same Capricornian energy. Whereas, as I said, our relationship to some of these old group structure, or some of these old guard structures, some of this more traditional energy, right? That is Capricorn. So with Mercury heading back to that Pluto there at the end of Capricorn, we're taking a more mental approach to it this time around, and it's going to be stationing direct on it. So it's almost like we're going back to that place that kind of hooked us maybe emotionally toward the end of the year in 2021, sort of that last couple of weeks of December, whatever's hooking us emotionally. Once we get into February next year, we're going to have a more pragmatic, mental, detached approach and a better understanding of what took place here in the latter part of 2021. It's going to be very matter of fact. Doesn't mean that it won't be deep. In fact, it may be a great time to seek out or seek out some therapy, to seek out some counseling, to really deconstruct some of these beliefs and structures, these sort of psychological structures that we have. It could be a really, really, really good time to explore that and do it on a level that is a little detached, because I don't think that emotional weight will be carried through into February, and I think it'll be more on a psychological level. So that's really the long and short of what I got. I think that's everything. This was a lot here. This is a big process that we have going on here for the end of the year. I think that's about everything I'm going to cover now. I could go into all of this in a lot more detail, but that's the long and short of it. Just know that we're ending the year, and it could get a little intense on an emotional level, on a personal level, but there is a shift happening once we get into next year. And I do see an opportunity to start the year, especially once we get into February, for February and March, an opportunity to really come in with the new and come into the world with our new branding, if you will, and our new understanding and our new emotional construct, and to really have a lot of fun with it. Okay, that's what I'm seeing as an opportunity once we get into February and March. I'm seeing the year really start off in a very promising way. A lot of people coming together, a lot of potential for love and harmony. This looks good, but there could be some uprooting and some mining to get there, but it's all part of a greater process. Some big changes coming at the end of the year into next year. It's really setting the table for what we got going next year. And I'll do another video because 2022 is going to be it's going to be a ride. There's going to be stuff happening, but it will be different. It will be different in 2021, no question about it. And I look forward to making another video about that. So hope this was helpful. I'll try to be a little more regular with the videos. My life soon will be here in the next couple of months freeing up a little bit, where it has been extremely busy and crazy with some of the things I've been working on. But some of that is coming to a conclusion, and I look forward to making more of these videos and doing them more often, so I don't have to do these long, drawn-out videos, that I can just get a little more focus. Okay, enjoyed it. Hope you did too. Yeah, much love. See you on the next video. Bye.